Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. All right, one more time. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming so much today. And there may be a few people come in as we continue to go on with a presentation. I hope everybody has had a nice week, and thank you for coming back on today. I really appreciate your enthusiasm, and I guess that's why I call it Facebook WAVwatch Frequency Fanatics. So can everybody hear me and see my screen okay? That's a good one. All right. So we're going to be talking about Parkinson's today. And basically the idea would be that I'll give you some presentation, some information that I've gathered up. And then towards the end of it, we can ask questions. But if you have something that you'd like to add about Parkinson's during the presentation, that is fine also. But we do have a few minutes towards the end. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll just get started. We'll kick it off. There we go. I think maybe that will work out. So again, Parkinson's and the WAVwatch. Now, I've been a little overwhelmed the last couple of weeks from information in the news about Parkinson's being connected with so many toxins. So that is pretty unusual. And I think there was even some information on Tucker Carlson about some of the things that I'm going to be talking about. So very interesting that people are finally paying attention, and news media and that kind of thing. So don't forget that if you want to refer somebody to this program or about 50 other programs that I have recorded, and most of you have been on a lot of them, they are by category. And if somebody has a particular question, would the WAVwatch help that? You could kind of send them to the WAVwatch Frequency Fanatics area to check out some information. And then again, I just want to remind everybody that the WAVwatch does not make a medical diagnosis. It is simply a tool for working with self-care ideas. And there are 850 self-care ideas on the WAVwatch, and they are strictly you as the person making the decision on what you would like to work with. Now, this is a new concept for people. We like just taking a pill and forgetting about it. But obviously, there are some problems with some of the medications and some of the pills and, everything that we've been doing. And so we're all looking for something that maybe is a little bit different and is more natural. So the WAVwatch has hundreds of sound frequencies. There's no cords or messy patches. There's nothing to hang on to. It's just on your wrist. It's not on the internet. It's not tied in. It's very important that we are not connected to the internet. There's no monthly fee for it. I think it's pretty cost effective. It's all inclusive. Even somebody that's hard of hearing like me, especially somebody that's hard of hearing, this is the perfect way for them to absorb frequencies into their body rather than have to hear something in particular. So Parkinson's disease is affecting more and more of us. It's just kind of blowing me away what the statistics are. And again, as an old teacher, I'd say, hey, raise your hand if you know somebody that has Parkinson's. And everybody would be raising their hands because the incident is increasing more and more. More than 8.5 million people have Parkinson's. So Parkinson's affects our nervous system, our movement, causes tremors, stiffened limbs, and some cognitive problems. So it's very important that we educate ourselves about Parkinson's now And I was pretty shocked on how we need to be protecting ourselves more and more so that we don't get Parkinson's. It doesn't have to be in our family. It's not inherited. It is environmental, in my opinion. And I'll see if I can present some information to show you that. So this is all the medical community has given us so far. They say that the dopamine, the transmitter, which helps the brain communicate, and it organizes the brain commands for the muscle movement, that is destroyed or quits working or low functioning. And that is the start of Parkinson's, is the loss of dopamine. And then the other neurotransmitter that is so connected is norepinephrine. And so this is for the proper functioning of the sympathetic nervous system. So a lot of ideas are connected with that. And it causes some of the non-movement related symptoms. So again, those two neurotransmitters are connected with Parkinson's. And that's really all they're telling us so far. Of course, they've developed many drugs, and I didn't even talk about them. I'm not sure that I can do a very good job on this presentation today with so much information and just, 45 to 50 minutes to cram this information into. It's a little scary on all of the things that are going on in our environment. And so little information about it. So we do know, if we've seen somebody with Parkinson's, that they're going to have tremors in their hands and their arms, their legs, their jaw, or their head, very, specific tremors. They're going to have stiffness of the limbs and the trunk, slow movements, and a lot of problems with balance and coordination, sometimes leading to falls and that type of thing. So those are the four main symptoms. And again, all medically that they're doing is just trying to control those with medication, different kinds of medication. But on the WAVwatch, there are some specific selections for Parkinson's disease. So the first one that I like the best, or always tell people to get started with, is inflammation, pain, and trauma. And then we have Parkinsonian disorders as a selection, Parkinson's disease 2, Parkinson's tremors, and Parkinson's 1. And again, those Parkinson's ones are just ways to divide them. Then also we have an area in pain, and then nerve selections. And basically you would just be able to pick out some of those ideas right there. Now, one of my stories that I know I've told, but we have new people online, is the fact that I had a gentleman call me who, let's see if I can get this. A gentleman called me who said that he had bought the WAVwatch for his wife with Parkinson's. And you could tell that he was getting embarrassed. He was trying to figure out what to say. He kind of cleared his throat, and then he just blurted out, "And we sleep really close together." I thought that was just so cute. And then he blurts out one more time and he says, "And I could feel her frequencies when she was wearing the WAVwatch for Parkinson's." And he said, "I got up the next morning and my feet didn't hurt." And of course I'm going, "Oh, wow, that is amazing." And he continues and he says, "Yeah, but what's really interesting is my feet have hurt for 15 years and I've been on medication for 15 years. So within just a couple of weeks, by snuggling up with his wife, who's wearing it for Parkinson's, his basically neuropathy type tremors went away." So then my next question was, well, how did it help your wife with Parkinson's? And he said, well, it really wasn't as good. It wasn't as dramatic as his change. And again, he's just feeling her frequencies that she was playing for the Parkinson's. So I suggested that she go over to this folder, the nerve selections, and here is when she had more success. So the one that's labeled tremors on this list, number 14, tremors seem to help her a little bit more than anything in the Parkinson's folder. So that's what I want to suggest to you, is you kind of have to play out outside the box or think outside the box. Just because you have a label doesn't mean that that's the frequency that might help you the most. So two different examples there, neuropathy kind of going away with Parkinson's tremor or Parkinson's frequencies, and Parkinson's not improving. But when we went over to just the label tremors, there was improvement. So I hope that kind of explains that a little bit. Keep trying, get some other ideas. So that's where we are on Parkinson's. What else can we do? There's so many people who have this problem. How can we be helping people? How can we be protecting ourselves? How do we, continue to work knowing that there's so many things that we can't control? Well, I'm really glad to say that the WAVwatch has some selections. And here's one of the start of the selections or of the problems. There was a new study in the Journal of Parkinson's Disease, and it just came out in January of 23, and that they are linking additional evidence of chemical toxins, and they found a link between Parkinson's disease and trichloroethylene, TCE. Now, this is kind of scary. It's very scary to me that they're finally admitting this. So trichloroethylene is a chemical that seems to be everywhere. It kind of smells like chloroform. It's in dry cleaning. Now, they keep saying, oh, it's the dry cleaning. That's where people are getting most of it. But I'm sorry, I haven't had clothes dry cleaned in years. And even when I was growing up, I don't know if I lived at the dry cleaners. So they're saying that's the main area that could be, plus a few more. But anyway, I see emphasis on the dry cleaning. There's metal degreasing things. There's cleaning wipes. Now, that to me, that one makes sense. So now we have all of these people who are buying cleaning wipes during the COVID and the virus scare. And yeah, that could be a big connection. We are putting toxins in our bodies that we never used to put in our bodies and having more and more problems. And it could even take 20 years, 30 years before something happens. So we need to be on alert now. Do not use these cleaning wipes, and be very, very careful of clothes if you're getting them dry cleaned all the time, whatever your preference is. So I have to know that I'm not using those cleaning wipes. I'm making my own natural, and I am not using commercial dry cleaning. I'm not using metal degreasers. I'm not using stain removers for clothing and carpeting very much. I do have those in my cupboard. So that could be a possible. Spray adhesives, lubricants, look at this list to see if there's anything that you're doing that you could clean up in your lifestyle. Now, I have had decaf coffee, and I try to use the organic and, chemical free, but that doesn't mean that 20 years ago that I didn't use some decaf coffee that had some of those chemicals in it. And then they kind of dropped it there at the last that anesthesia is an area that would have TCE, trichloroethylene, in it. And so many of us have had anesthesia. We've had a surgery or something and had that. And I did 20 years ago. I had a hernia surgery, and probably most of you have had something. And that's what they're saying, that it's in our systems, and it could be getting deeper and deeper, and at a later point be obviously problematic for us. So hopefully this list is good for you, and it might be just a starting list. So this was the scary part. TCE exposure is all over in the military sites. This is actually what Camp Lejeune is about. There's a lot of this causing many, many problems. So we get this TCE from our factories, our military sites. It seeps into the ground. We have well water contamination. We have vapors. I thought this was a great image. Superfund sites and hazardous waste sites, groundwater contamination. The list goes on and on. So this TCE can be released into the air and the water and the soil, anywhere. We're just contaminated. So they even say 30% of our drinking water may be contaminated with TCE. So some suggestions are, this is why people have been doing this for a while, but just make sure that you've got the best and that you're changing your filters. So we needed to be using air filters, using some activated carbon type ones, but they are now saying that it's gotten so bad that we actually need to be using some sophisticated systems like we use for radon mitigation. And I have not seen where to get that. Now, I didn't do a deep dive into it, but just wanted to recommend that to you. So if you live close to a Superfund or an area where there is known contamination and they've actually announced it, you want to maybe track down some of the really good mitigation filters similar to radon. And I don't have a name for those, just letting you know that they are available. You could also use a whole house water filter systems. And, you're trying to avoid the water with bathing, dishwashing, all kinds of things that we don't even realize that we do, that we are getting overwhelmed in. So I was really pretty upset to find all the places that this is just leaked into our environment. And they've known how bad it was for a couple of decades. They recognized it decades ago. What do you think? So this TCE may be associated with as much as a 500% increased risk for Parkinson's. So we're just beginning to see some of the toxins and their effect and what could become Parkinson's disease. But it's an environmental problem that we have, caused ourselves. So another little idea is that Parkinson's affects 50% more men. Now, that's not hard to figure out, in my opinion. And I like to say, in my opinion. And this statement is saying for unknown reasons. They don't know why men would be affected more than women. Well, think about it. All of those toxins, those are usually men that are working in those toxins more. We have more men in the military that are exposed to it. And the factories and things that the chemical has been spewed out of, more men are connected with those. It's not hereditary, except for various sources said 5 to 10% could be hereditary, but mostly it's connected with environmental toxins. There has been a book written, and this reflects again this January 23rd of 23, January 2023, the EPA found that trichloroethylene poses an unreasonable risk to human health. They don't tell us to do anything. They haven't made any, statements yet, except that it's bad. But we should notify the public. It's our responsibility to tell other people, and especially find out if you live near a contaminated site. And then we need to be mitigating. We need to be looking at different ideas to protect ourselves. Just like radon is bad, this TCE is bad, and who knows how many other chemicals. So these are some other possibilities that they are connecting, and they do know, they are acknowledging. And I just kept adding and adding. I'm not sure that I'm going to be pronouncing all of these right, but we do have insecticides. And I don't know if you see this mosquito net clothing. I haven't personally worn one of those, or I don't even know if I know anybody that has clothing that has been treated for mosquitoes. But that is actually now connected. That particular chemical, the permethrin, if I'm saying it right, permethrin, is connected with Parkinson's. So how many people have clothes that have some kind, besides their dry clean clothes, but now we have clothes which have chemicals in them that are now connected with Parkinson's. We have DDT, which was banned decades ago. Hey, they think they've taken care of it. It was banned. No, it's still in our groundwater. It's in many, many places. We might have been exposed to it a lot the 20 years previously, and it's just now bothering our system. So we have chlordane, we have deldrin. These are fluorines that are connected with Parkinson's, these particular names. So paraquat and 2,4-D is definitely connected with Parkinson's. So that has been used for decades. And it's in everything. I kept looking to see, they sprayed it on everything, it seemed like. I don't know if anyone would be safer to say they've never used a product that has paraquat on it, or, eaten a food that might have been sprayed at one point in time with it. It is an herbicide, and it's sprayed dramatically all over. Even though they may be trying to contain it, they didn't contain it. And people who are older would have absorbed some of it at some point in life. It doesn't even matter if you are eating organic foods. There's something called drift when they spray, So I was raised on a farm. When I first was growing up, my dad didn't have sprays. And then gradually all the farmers in the area kept adding spray and spray and spray. And so even if you weren't spraying, somebody was going to be in a plane above you spraying something, or maybe in the field beside you with a large tractor spraying something. So we have so many farm people who are definitely overloaded with all kinds of herbicides and pesticides. Now, Agent Orange, it contains 2,4-D. So they know there's this connection. And so the VA goes as far as to say that if you have Parkinson's and you have been around Agent Orange, that there is a connection, and they do pay disabilities for that, is my understanding. So make sure you're covered for that. If you are not, or if you know somebody, again, the VA says that they are acknowledging that. So then we have manganese. We have a heavy metal and other metals from welding and different types of services like that. Again, this is a profession that men would be more associated with. So in my opinion, it's not hard to figure out why men have a larger rate of Parkinson's than women. And then this one I couldn't find a lot about, but MPTP is a synthetic neurotoxin. I'm sorry, I couldn't track this down in the small amount of time that I have. But basically, they were saying they noted that people who had drug use might have been exposed to this. And evidently, there was a group of people who, in their drug escapades, maybe is a way to say that immediately afterwards, they developed Parkinson's. And that's when they traced down this MPTP as being problematic. So I have a couple of testimonies from the WAVwatch. I did have a picture of this one somewhere, a video, but couldn't get the right numbers touched and the right clicks to get it for you. But I do have a picture of this, and the gentleman's hand is actually just jumping. He's wearing the WAVwatch on the left hand, and his right hand is just going like this involuntarily. And it's never done that before. And he said, I didn't feel anything when wearing the watch prototype, but my arm must have. Although my right hand has more tremors, the area from my elbow to my shoulder went crazy jumping. So again, I felt nothing. But the next morning, my tremors were much improved. My wife says my anxiety was also so much better. So that's 30 minutes of using the WAVwatch in my office. So tremors have changed. Now, is it Parkinson's tremors? Again, there's that tie-in. We want to make sure that we cover all the frequencies for tremors. Here's another one, and some of you may have seen this, but it might be new for some of you. Tremors relieved with the WAVwatch. I've not been able to hold a cup of coffee for 25 years without spilling it. After 1 hour wearing frequencies for tremors, my hands were 90% improved. And I believe this is on the website too. But this one kind of switches. And I don't know why the video does that. And there's no sound to it. He's just showing you how bad his hands are shaking. So that was a before. And then he said they were 90% improved. This is what it looked like after an hour. So if he'd had that WAVwatch, that was my prototype. If he'd had the WAVwatch for use, there could have maybe been a little bit more improvement. I don't know. Isn't that quite a difference, though, in just 1 hour? He was quite the jokester. He said, I'm going to save a lot of money on coffee. That's from Ed in Kansas. And he did say, this is a question that a lot of people ask me, well, how long does it last, or how long do I need to repeat it? In this example, he played it once for 30 minutes, and it's lasted for about a week. Then after using my weed eater, I think most of you, I use my weed eater kind of on my left hand, which is my weaker hand. So he said his weaker hand shook more. And so he just played the frequencies. He came back to my office and just played the frequencies. How easy is that? So really interesting information that you could be doing, or you could be sharing with somebody else, because there are so many people out there as we age, as our population gets older, or maybe your mothers and fathers, or whoever you're connected to, your aunts and uncles, your loved ones. Some people are going to start having some more problems with tremors. And that's just a statistic already, with over 1 million people having problems in the US. So how far will these toxins go? I think I already kind of had this idea when we talked about Ohio and the problem there. How much drift is there? Well, we know that toxins have come over from Fukushima, from Japan. So they're here and things are drifting. We're all in danger. So we definitely need to be organizing as a group to help our families, to help people we loved. So here are some ideas that you could do on the WAVwatch that go beyond the Parkinson's frequencies and the tremors. So you could be playing all of the detox categories. And I say all of them. Yes, once in a while, pick out one in particular, maybe. But remember, anesthesia. I didn't know probably 2 weeks ago when I talked to you about anesthesia and how many people were dying within a year after having anesthesia, quote unquote, there were some unusual deaths. And 1 in 20 people over 65 died after a surgery. And it was pointed out that the anesthesia was problematic. But I didn't know, I hadn't found out, I hadn't seen the research that TCE is also in anesthesia. So that's why we need to be detoxing ourselves. And again, I've had anesthesia 20 years ago, but I better keep detoxing. So we all have chemicals, that's a chemical. So maybe if it doesn't detox us through the anesthesia, maybe the chemical detox would be helpful for the TCE, which is airborne. I do not know. Maybe somebody could tell me when I open up, but has anybody connected the TCE with chemtrails? That would be a good one. If anybody knows that, I do not know. So heavy metal detoxes, we need that. We need EMF detox. We need our kidneys and our liver detoxed. We need intestinal detox. And the list goes on and on. All of these need detoxification. So that's why I'm saying play those all as much as you can. I'm kind of getting uncomfortable going outside once in a while. And when I come back inside, I play the detox. That's my clue there. So that would be a possibility. And I don't know if you remember that the viral detox is my attempt at a vaccination detox. And it does have RNA, DNA frequencies inside that. So that might be helpful too. And that's another reason to play through every single one of them, because there are some different frequencies for your use. And I have used this particular slide before. I just think it is very interesting that science-based medicine WAVwatch.org tells us that natural detox ideas aren't good and that it's just negative. It's just somebody trying to make money off of us when they try to sell us detox products. And they're even saying just the opposite. Our bodies are accumulating toxins, so we need to detoxify. They're saying that that is an unscientific idea. Wow. It just blows me away. And they're saying that Dr. Oz is the biggest purveyor of health pseudoscience today. And more often than not, his health advice is wrong, especially when it comes to detox. It's consistently wrong. So, we can't win. We get an idea, we know we need to detox. And if we listen to the medical or, find information on other areas, they're going to be saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that. There's no need to do that. But they want you to come in when you have shakes, when you have tremors, so that they can give you medication. So, hey, I know all of you are in the position I am. We want to do something. So, of course, there's all kinds of detox ideas, and I don't have time to go over them all at this point in time. We've talked about some of them before. So that's why sometimes it's easier to play the detox on the WAVwatch and then go ahead with your detox shakes, your detox ideas. Eat the right kind of food. There's a great grouping of them right there so that you are detoxing all the time. So other ideas that we could do for the problem with Parkinson's and protecting ourselves would be in the brain folders and the senior folder, and then emotions. Now, I do apologize that emotions, you're going to have to kind of pick them out. And that's a good thing to put in a playlist, and all of us, I don't know there's anybody who couldn't use any of these ideas. So the emotions could be very, very important. So we need to keep our brain cleaned out. And don't forget that there was a brain detox in the detox folder also. So we may not have all of these, but it would be a good idea to follow up with the brain stimulate, gamma brainwave, hypothalamus, and any other ideas that you think might be connected. But we've got to be protecting our brain as much as we can. Now, some people have lost their taste of smell, have lost their sense of taste and sense of smell. There we go. I can't combine those two, can I? That was a wrong statement. Anyway, so there's another folder for that also, and that actually affects our brain. So that's a really good one to do. Really good one to do. Be detoxing for those senses also. Now, one of the last things that's kind of interesting that I was seeing is so many problems with sleep with people who have Parkinson's. And all of us today are having sleep problems. It seems like I'd say 90% of the people I talk to are not sleeping well. And so the WAVwatch does have many ideas for sleep. And that is included in the brain folder in the seniors category. I put it right in there. Insomnia. It may not have every single idea, but hopefully you'll realize that insomnia is so connected with brain problems. And so, call from the next door. So excessive daytime sleepiness. Some people are having problems with that. They're having very vivid dreams. They're having emotional dreams or nightmares, I guess, and fragmented sleep. So different kinds of problems with sleep. So hopefully they can get that figured out, or you can, because the longer you have a sleep problem, the more your brain shuffles and tries to balance it and figure it out. And the easier it is for toxins to get into your system. There's a few more things that I want to share. And basically, we're starting with salt. And I've talked about this a lot, but salt is vital. I picked out a couple of ideas that salt does for our brain. The 80 minerals are vital for communication. to process nerve cells from conception to death, So we have to have these minerals, and think how long people have not been taking salt. That was one thing my mother and father did. They were so good to follow their physician's advice, and it was to get off of salt. So everything my mother did for 20 some years was salt free. So yes, they both had problems with memory. And so I think everybody that is salt free is going to have more memory problems than someone who's been taking 1 to 3 teaspoons of salt. Now, if you're new to this program, I hope you'll remember that basically they have done a study for 200 years. They tracked all the cultures around the world before refrigeration. So that was like the 1700s to the 1900s. And they figured out that every single culture in the whole world had between 1 and 3 teaspoons of salt. So of course it was in the dried foods and fermented foods, but we quit eating that. We started refrigerating. We threw the salt away, put it on our highways instead. And that's what we needed for our brains. We kept giving our animals salt blocks and things like that, but we forgot it for us. So it is particularly important for our brain, and it helps to extract excess acidity from the cells, particularly from the brain. That's huge. Another one, very, very particular, is magnesium, or even if you use magnesium oil. So low magnesium, which we mostly have because we have too much calcium now. Everything stressed is calcium. They put excess calcium in our milk. But it just goes on and on. I don't want to get on a rant here, but too much calcium. So this enables deposits of calcium, heavy metals, and toxin in the brain, which leads to Parkinson's. So again, if you take a good kind of unrefined salt, it's the right balance of magnesium to calcium. Naturally, God provided those. Those are balanced. But if we start messing with them, we mess up that balance. And then our magnesium is low and our calcium is high, and we're more prone to Parkinson's. Now, another idea, adequate presence of magnesium. You're not going to have heavy metals in the intestines. And then magnesium protects us from aluminum and mercury poisoning. That's just one mineral. So we could go through all of these. And in general, I just tell people there are different minerals that connect with different heavy metals. Do you have something every day that has about 80 minerals in it? It's very important for you to do that. Don't just say, I buy one bottle and I take selenium. That's not an answer. You have to have 80 minerals. So look at what you're doing. There are even some good mineral balances out there. They might be a liquid mineral or, even a pill bottle. And you look at them and they're really only 35 minerals. So you're shorting yourself. Make sure you figured out where you can get the 80 from. Many different ways to do that. I could go on. We have a deficiency in vitamins B9 and B12. So we need that complex. And I'm not real familiar with B9. And I actually thought that said B6 when I cut and pasted that in there. So I'm going to be a little bit incorrect when I say I'm not sure exactly what the B9 does. But the B12, we're going to have depression, anxiety, and problems with that. And other vitamins, you always think of B vitamins as protecting your brain. That's one of the biggest things area. B vitamins, brain, B vitamins, brain. Put it together that way. Have fun with it. I got to have my B vitamins for my brain. So make sure you are taking a multi-level B vitamin. Then a couple of other things were the glutathione and grapeseed extract. And I thought that was great just to point out that this grapeseed extract is a great antioxidant. It reduces DNA fragmentation in the brain. So these are really specific, and it's able to cross the brain to protect brain cells from free radical damage. So glutathione fits in perfectly with that for protection. It's an antioxidant. Now, this was just an example I had. We are just about done. But it is very important for us to realize sometimes how much air we breathe, and how many gallons we're going through, about 100 gallons of oxygen a day. And so if that oxygen isn't clean, if our air isn't good, we are getting so many toxins. And I believe I had that stat somewhere. I'm not sure I have it written down, but the TCE, the trichloroethylene, they are saying that there is 2 pounds a year that every human is absorbing. 2 pounds every year. So it's coming out of our water and our air, what we're eating, what we're touching, what we're putting on our body. The list is endless. So can you imagine one compound, one toxin, TCE, they are making enough for every human to be absorbing 2 pounds per year. Well, I'm trying to get this moving. There we go. I think I have, there it goes. I had one more left. And
plus one for us.
as you can tell, I've got some important calls coming in. I need to answer it. But basically, the last thing is that the Michael J. Fox Foundation has given some prize money away to do a little bit more quicker testing on humans and to get that test figured out so that they can tag Parkinson's quicker. And of course, we all know that Michael J. Fox and the Parkinson's Foundation, has been working on this. He's an example of such a young person that has that problem. So we want to be thankful that somebody is doing some research out there, but I am thankful for all of you that you are doing your own research and that you are digging deeper and that you are trying to protect yourself. We can't wait for a foundation to provide the answer for us. We have to provide some answers ourselves. So anyway, I'm going to finish this up and stop sharing and see where we're at. If anybody has any comments.
Linda, this is Vicki.
Yes.
I just have one comment. I think sometimes people would see something like this and get really overwhelmed and, feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't do anything. But that's really not true. I think you need to look at the things you've offered, pick out the things you can do or would be able to do, and maybe pick one a week, one a month, something you're going to change. And you could do one a day, starting with the salt, but keep it from overwhelming you and causing anxiety that there's so much of this coming into our environment that there's nothing we can do. I really feel like we need to take a hold of it and take it step by step and work on it instead of being overwhelmed by it.
I really appreciate that phrasing. That is so important. And, I did say flat out, I was really frustrated when I saw how much that we were absorbing 2 pounds a day. But you said it so correctly. We have some solutions. People need to be taking control and doing something step by step. Perfect phrasing. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Other ideas or testimonies or questions that we can help with. And sometimes people answer other questions that somebody has an answer. This is a time where we put our heads together. I see a few questions here. Sorry. Oh, and I don't know if some of you are reading, but one comment was just before we started this Zoom, I got a call from a friend who has Parkinson's. So we're all in that situation. We all know somebody who has Parkinson's. So maybe there's a way to help them detox. And seriously, I think Vicki's already said it. They're really great when it's salt, in my opinion. Get people on salt, get them to be detoxing just really easily. And we didn't even talk about, essential oils today. This was such a broad topic. There are so many toxins out there. And someone asked if there were reports of feeling nausea or soreness after doing a detox. They have had these symptoms. And I'm not sure what kind of a detox you were talking about. Is it a detox on the watch, or if you're doing it like in the bathtub, a bath detox? That would be a completely different idea. Yes, some people may have some symptoms. And if you have, somebody just jogged my memory. B9 is folic acid. It's just blank. I'll listen because I thought it said B6 when I was talking, and I'm going, whoops, wrong B vitamin there. Anything else? Someone says, I have type 2 diabetes, trying to wean off the metforms. Any comments on this for that problem? I don't know if anybody has any diabetes connections or comments using the WAVwatch. Hey, Marie, go ahead if you want to add to that.
I was just commenting that I had diabetes and I'm trying to use the WAVwatch for that.
Okay, perfect. So there's lots of things on the WAVwatch in a category called diabetes. It's in the chronic folder. And then also I would play your major organ systems, especially your pancreas and liver and kidney. They all have to support and work together. So our body's all tied together. So that's why the WAVwatch is neat, because sometimes we're given one pill, one medication. It works for one area, but we need something that covers a lot of areas. I had somebody else say there's a nausea setting on the WAVwatch. Works great. I have seen that before. I've used that myself. All right. Renee, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Sure. I mean, I've been using the WAVwatch now for, I think, 4 months, maybe even 5 months. And I am so impressed with all the things that it works for me. I mean, I've down from cramping to nausea to migraines. Like if I put it on the migraine setting, I am not nauseous anymore and I can actually function. Where before, it was like there was so much pain. I had to be in a dark room and I was just, I couldn't function at all. So it has, this has just totally changed my life. And also with emotional eating, or putting it on weight loss or emotional eating. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I so want some chocolate during like that monthly time. And I can just put it on that setting. And I'm just shocked at how well this works. Honestly, it's totally amazing. I started highlighting all the things that it has helped me for in the printout, which it's just totally amazing. And then it also helps me to realize that there are so many other things they're possible for me. So, last night I got up in the middle of the night, I had a dry cough. I put the WAVwatch on. 3 minutes later, I could just relax and go to sleep. I had no more cough. So it's just like, oh, is there a setting for that every time? It's almost like a joke in our family, because somebody's like, oh, my leg hurts. We're like, is there a setting for that? So we have fun with it too. So thank you so much for making something that is, I think, very helpful in saving money on self-care, healthcare. Just so many symptoms and just over-the-counter medication. I'm a highly sensitive person to medication. And so this has been such a lifesaver for me. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see. Someone asked a question. Does the watch list the frequency as it works? For instance, what frequency does it actually list as it is being used? If I'm understanding that correctly, no, it does not show the frequency. Some of the settings are 30 some frequencies. And I do not put them in the booklet either, because as I calculated, I probably have 24,000 different frequencies on the WAVwatch. There's 850 different sets, but I'm not breaking down the frequencies for you. If you want to see that, there are some books that have that. So the CAFL is you can look up CAFL, and it's a list of frequencies, and you can kind of see how many they have in some of them. Now, the ones that you cannot hear very well, like the chakras and the emotional settings, the Bach remedies, they're only one frequency, and that's why you can't hear them very well. But I have had a couple of PowerPoints where I've shown the exact frequency because it was only one. I wasn't ready to, do all the typing and show you more than one. But if you are very, very interested in that, you could look it up on the internet. Where do I find a list of frequencies? Okay. Anything else? Any other additions? Any comments on Parkinson's? Again, I have had several testimonies. There was one that was given to me verbally, and the gentleman said that the first 2 hours, he cut his medications in half because he was supposed to take medication every 2 hours, and he literally didn't need it for 4 hours. And it was at his, choice when he took the medication. And so he went from 2 hours to 4 hours. The very first day he cut his meds in half is what he said. And he was thrilled on that because there are so many side effects from the medication. I don't think he had a lot of tremors. There was something else, but it was mostly his meds that the watch helped him cut down on that one. Someone says, how I have a friend with Parkinson's. How do I bring up the watch with him? Wow, that's a big question. I don't know how close you are to that friend, and it goes on and on. But maybe you could be wearing it sometime when you're around him, and he might ask, well, what is that? Or they might ask, what is that? And then you can show them and show them some of the other frequencies first, and then say, oh, I think there's something here for Parkinson's. Maybe that'd be something you'd want to try. And I did have a gal give me the neatest way that she used the WAVwatch, because I tell people to turn the WAVwatch down to 4 so that people aren't hearing it. And she says, oh, no. She says, when I go in a big room, I turn the WAVwatch up as loud as I can. And then everybody comes over and talks to me, or I can tell them about the WAVwatch. They'll want to see what that is, So you can have fun with it being low tones for yourself, or if you're at a party, maybe a high tone or a loud tone would be more fun. But I think just having the WAVwatch on would be an opening for someone who might have Parkinson's. And then I want to thank some people. I don't know everybody on this call necessarily, but some people have been so amazing to share their the WAVwatch with other people and gift them. So that is totally amazing. So that's what we're doing, is helping people and helping our friends, helping our family. And whether it's a small idea or a large idea, you've still been helpful. A cold or a runny nose is just important to share the WAVwatch on as Parkinson's possibility or a tremor possibility. So ladies and gentlemen, you have been lovely because you care about your fellow people. And that just shows all the time that you're working with others and sharing and caring. So anything else? I thought this was going to be a long presentation today. We're ended up just a couple minutes early. So I am just about done. Oh, someone said, do I have any information on the addiction? It's just a frequency setting. And I'm not saying info. I'm not sure what you mean about that. Some people have said they think they eat less, or, I don't know that I've had somebody say that they are drinking less, anything like that. There is a nicotine detox for, of course, for addiction. And I have had several people comment that one is very helpful for that particular one. And another question is, could you share your cider vinegar foot soak recipe? I don't remember the exact recipe. I think it's a half a cup of apple cider vinegar to, the amount that you would put in your foot bath. It's not a lot. You're just putting vinegar in. That's about it. And someone said, did I invent the watch and where is it made? And yes, I did invent the watch. I have a patent on it. I shouldn't say it's an invention. I had no idea that I would be able to get an invention on that. But I'll share this God story. My son, one of my sons is a a professor at a college in Nashville, a Christian college, and he introduced me to his pastor when I went to visit him and his wife one time. And he told the pastor a little bit about my project where I was developing what was to become the WAVwatch. And the pastor is the one who spoke up and said, Linda, you need to get a patent on that. I know, I used to work in the patent office. Now, isn't that a message from God? Because I didn't think it was patentable, but it was a utility patent. So what I did was update some ideas that have been around for 100 years. And I've already mentioned there are books, pretty thick books with frequencies in them. So I don't measure the frequencies. I'm just putting them to use to make it more accessible. Some of the older tools to use frequencies were, this big, and they cost $12,000 to $14,000, and you had to have almost a PhD to use them. So my whole idea was to simplify it and get it where everybody could use it. And the last question, it is made in China, and that's because it's embarrassing to say it can't be made in America. I tried. I really did. I have a prototype person, and he went around. He works with places all over for high-tech products in the US. And he called several of them, eliminated several. I did go visit one in person, and that was actually close to me in the Kansas City area. And this particular firm was a good possibility, but they were very skeptical that they could put any features on it at all. And they said, we don't know if we could put a clock on it. We don't know if we can get it to tell time. And yes, we can put some frequencies on, a wristband for you, but you're only going to be able to use 4 letters to describe your frequencies. Can you imagine if I was giving you some kind of a code for 4 different letters to figure out 850 frequencies? It's hard enough right now. Oh, and then their last comment was, we'll start with $1 million. So I'm sorry, it is made in China. I could get started. I chose to get the product to you at this point in time rather than wait for somebody in America to be able to develop it. All right. And then somebody else maybe ask a little bit about the warranty. If you didn't pick up a warranty on it, please be fair to me. And, within a couple of weeks after you buy the watch, you could go back online still and get the warranty, and you just go to buy products and click. Unless there's any other questions or comments, I think we're going to fade out a little bit. All right. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Love you all. Really fun to talk. Bye-bye.